My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission, as always, is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today, we're going to be talking about what's going on in the Anchorage real estate market update. Now, in this update, we're going to be looking at the single-family homes, the condos, and the multifamily. Anchorage is one of the biggest markets in the entire state. Not the biggest. We'll talk more about that later. But we're going to take a look at what we're seeing here in the market and maybe some projections on what we can expect moving forward. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so the first thing we see on the single-family properties, actually seeing a bit of an uptick for the inventory for what we saw for the inventory this time last year. So there were about 303 properties on the market this time last year, and now there's about 378. So that's a nice little uptick, but usually what we'd see around this time of year is around like 900 or 1,000 homes. So we're still a ways off from where we were pre-COVID, but that is a healthy step in the right direction. Now, the next thing we see is that the number of properties that actually sold for the month where we have the most current information, which is July, was about 222 homes that actually sold. And this time last year, it was about 224. And this, it's more or less keeping neck and neck from where we were a couple of years ago. Looking kind of to pre-COVID, we see that we would normally see about 290 to about 230 homes, but you can definitely see with having such a more compressed inventory, why it is that we're not seeing the same numbers we did at that time. Now, the next thing we see is that the average sold price year to date went from about 480 this time last year to about 510 this year, which means we've actually seen approximately a 5-10% increase for the average sold price. And this is actually a little bit of an uptick from what we saw the previous year to date in 2023, as far as the increase for the average sold price. And obviously, inflation is really going to have a big hand in this, but it's not all inflation though. Like, we do see an increased value in having a home just because in times of inflation, rent is going to be going up, which is the biggest line item for most people. And when you have a mortgage, it just stays the same. And so that's going to be a big motivator for a lot of people to get out and actually get a property. All right, now the next thing we're seeing is that the number of condos on the market this time last year was 86, and this year it's 120. So 120 is definitely an improvement on 86. Usually we'd see anywhere from about 400, 450 to nearly 500 properties. So we are seeing an uptick. Still nowhere near what we had before, but it is kind of nice for the first time to kind of start seeing some demand for condos in this market, because for the longest time, you couldn't get rid of a condo in Anchorage if you were giving it away. The next thing we see is that the number of condos that actually sold went from about 111 to about 104 this year. So we're seeing just a little bit of a dip from the number of condos actually selling this time last year for the month of July, where we have the most complete information compared to right now. Now, the next thing we see is that the average sold price went from about $270,000 for the year to date to about $278,000 this year, which means we've seen approximately a 2.5% increase for the average sold price, which that's not a whole lot, especially when you take into consideration the increase last year to date went from about $243,000 to that $270,000, which was about an 11% increase for the average sold price. And that's really about the time we started seeing a increased demand for condos just because the interest rates were going up. And during the time like that, people are looking for more affordable options, and those condos really do begin to start looking better. All right, we're going to get to the multifamily market stuff in just a minute, but before we do, though, just wanted to make sure, if you weren't aware, I do in fact have a podcast for those who are considering moving to Alaska, where I interview people who have recently moved up here and kind of give them a chance to share their story and kind of the tips and tricks they have for other people who are considering moving up here. And also, I do have an Instagram page. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below, the handle for it, where I kind of use a lot of the drone footage you see on this channel and create some reels and stuff from that. So if you do like the drone footage, that is actually mine, and I do use it over at that place as well. So yeah, if that's something you enjoy, go take a look at that. Now, let's go and finish up today's market update looking at the multifamily section of the real estate market. Now, switching gears and looking at the multifamily market, we see that this time last year, there were about 76 multifamily properties that were on the market. and now we're seeing right around 86. So we're seeing a slight uptick in the inventory for multifamily properties. Not a huge difference, but every little bit counts. Now, looking at the number of multifamily properties that have actually sold this time last year, we had 24 properties that sold, and this year it is 27. So again, slight uptick, not a huge swing one way or the other though. Usually around this time of year, we'd see anywhere from about 26 to about 30 or so. So we're actually right about where we normally are, even though inventory is significantly lower than we historically would be. Last but not least, we see that the average sold price for multifamily properties in Anchorage went from about $501,000 to about $575,000 for year to date. Now, I am not entirely convinced the average sold price for multifamily really tells us a whole lot, because it doesn't really distinguish between the little two-unit duplex all the way up to like the big 60, 50-unit multifamily commercial property. It just all kind of gets clumped in there together. So I have no doubt that the value for multifamily properties has increased. I don't think it's gone up by about $74,000 though. So in summary, what I'm seeing in this market, if you are a buyer, it does look like prices are probably going to continue going up if things do maintain. And right at the moment, I'm not seeing anything really changing the supply, and that's been the biggest factor up to this point. Now, what we are starting to see, though, is all the talk about the NAR settlement and everything that came out and the compensation the buyer agents get that could really start making an impact upon buyers and their ability to even be interested in pursuing properties, which that could really decrease the demand for properties in this market, and that in turn will start creating kind of a softening of the market. That is one outcome that we could potentially see, or it could just be a big nothing and we just continue on doing business as we have done before. I made an entire video talking about this prior to it being edited. I think it was right around like 40 minutes or so. So I've really dove into a lot of the thought and everything behind it. So I'm not really going to unpack that very much here. So go check that video out. If you're a seller, this still looks like it's a pretty strong seller's market. It's not the market we had back in 2001. So if you are looking at getting your home on the market, we're going to have to make sure like the marketing is good, and we're going to have to make sure that it shows well and has the best foot forward, and it's going to have to also ensure that it's priced correctly. So this has been your market update talking about Anchorage. I sure hope it's been useful. If it has, give this video a like. Reach out to me if you have any other questions, and thanks for watching. See you again.